Morning. How is everybody doing this morning? Happy Tuesday to ya. JTW here with another FOMO live stream, ready to go. Hopefully, the market's ready to go and do something more than it did yesterday. But we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll get through some trade plan recaps from the member selected trade plans that I did and posted over the weekend. We'll take a look back at our live stream plans from last Thursday. And of course, we will be doing some new live stream plans here, live and direct, for everybody watching and following along. What's up, Navy Plum? Good morning. Hope you're doing well, my friend. What's up, Karen? Good to see you at the mix. If you're on the YouTube side of the house, feel free to say good morning. No pressure. You don't have to, but would love to hear from you guys if you are in the mix this morning. All right. So with that, let's kind of talk about how we want to get ourselves situated and leaning for the week ahead as we get into Tuesday's trading day here. As far as kind of any notable, major market events, data points, etc. We do have a few things going on this week to be aware of that you'll want to keep in mind. We do have today consumer confidence at 10 a.m. That will be an interesting reading to see how that comes in, and that could have some impact on the markets. I don't think it's what has kept things kind of in consolidation. I don't think it's that major of a data point, but certainly can move some things around, and that is a data point that will happen shortly after market open. So keep that in mind as with regards to how you're loading up and how much you're loading up your positions prior to 10 a.m. this morning. Nothing much Wednesday. We do have a bunch of Fed speakers, including Jerome Powell, going into the pre-market hours. On Thursday, we've got Collins, Kugler, Powell, Williams. They're all speaking in this 9 to 9:30 range. So they will all be speaking kind of as the market's getting ready to open on Thursday. That will be very interesting to see how that affects the pre-market action and affects things heading into the trading day. And then you have a couple more Fed speakers throughout the day on Thursday. So Thursday's really loaded up with pretty much every Fed speaker that, you would ever want to hear from, essentially. And then Friday, we've got a couple of price indexes coming in, some personal income and spending readings, core PCE coming out at 8:30 that morning, month over month. So keep those data points in mind as you kind of decide how those catalysts may or may not affect the markets and any potential trades you're in. Again, Thursday kind of being the real the day that I will kind of be most interested by or watching the closest, just because of how many Fed speakers we have coming up that day. So what's that say as far as, or what does the chart say as far as the markets go? Well, we continue to hold this new demand zone that we've built up. We're trying to break out and push new all-time highs here on ES. Haven't quite done it yet. I think 5,800 pretty clearly going to be a key level to break. I think that's a fib extension from quite some time ago. I do have the 200 SMA crossing over the 333. Everything looks, pretty bullish at the moment, but definitely flat and kind of choppy consolidation, especially with what we saw yesterday. So kind of low volume, sideways trading day. Those come around every so often. Unfortunately, I don't feel like we've seen a ton of them lately, but those days do happen. Kind of just the doldrums of the market. So it's hard to gauge whether or not a day is going to be flat like that. I'd say probably the best thing that you could do is sort of look at volume, especially in those first couple of hours of trading, and see how the volume is trending. If it's trending, kind of pretty far on the low side, I would say be a little bit quicker to get in and out of trades, and don't hold things for too long, because you could certainly have just a whole day of chop and theta burn, which nobody wants to deal with. So with that being said, let's get to the trade plan recaps from over the weekend. Nvidia took a shot here pre-market at trying to break out to the call side of our trade plan over 117.26, but so far is rejecting, coming back down for another test of this 115.57 as support. Interestingly enough, we do have the 333 there on the 1 hour chart. just take a look at the 15-minute. Yeah, also 15-minute showing some confluence here with Neptune as far as breaking over 117.26 would clear out this selling pressure that we're currently under. So, yeah, NVIDIA plan still on watch. Nothing confirmed as far as a break or an entry so far. We're testing the breakout pre-market, and I like how things are setting up. If we do wind up breaking over 117.26 for things to flip bullish and potentially continue and make a push to the upside here on NVIDIA. So keep this one on watch. Again, this plan was put in the spelled out for you in the options watch list on Sunday evening. You know, stick to the plan essentially, right? Plan your trades and trade your plans. This one, I plan the trade. You just have to trade the plan. So half the work is already done for you. So nothing on NVIDIA yet. Tesla made a huge move pre-market. Good news on their sales in China. I think they are finally the stock price is finally profitable. I think from if you look at the 2024 price action where it started and where it is, it's finally back in the black. Making big moves, gapping up. But with regards to our plan, I mean, it had pretty much already before market open and then kind of within this first 15-minute candle, just shot all the way through our price targets and is even back tested or some back testing around PT3 for calls and pushed even higher. So this one wound up being not actionable just because the move pretty much was really heavily underway pre-market. And then, you know, first 15 minutes, I'm certainly not chasing something that's already over PT1. Just my approach. We did see that little bit of a rejection on Neptune off that key selling pressure, but that flipped so hard and fast in one candle that you know, again, just not a setup that I personally, I don't trade Tesla anyway, but not a setup that I would go after with you know, that big of a move without any kind of good back tests or good entry opportunities. So hey, what's up, Chris? Good morning to you, brother. Hope you're doing well. When I talk about Tesla, can you talk about TSLY? Yeah, sure. What would you want me to cover there, Navy Plum, on TSLY? TSLY being the covered call. For those of you who don't know, TSLY is the high yield dividend covered call ETF. I think is that Defiance that does TSLY? I forget which outfit does TSLY. So they pay out pretty heavy dividends, currently trading around 14.03. I mean, it does a good job generally of following Tesla. Last dividend pay, so, you know, and this is kind of what I'm talking about, right? So something that's trading around $14 a share is paying out an 81-cent monthly dividend that gets paid every month on TSLY, 96 cents there. And it's been doing a good job here lately of recovering those large dividend payments and pushing higher. So this one's definitely an interesting one to, would you also scale out at the PTs? Yeah, I wouldn't be against that. Also, I'd say it kind of depends on how strategic you're trying to be on collecting those dividends on TSLY. And certainly one thing to keep in mind, if you are collecting those dividends, I believe they get handled differently if you are holding TSLY for a while. I think the tax is different on them, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong on this. I kind of just let my accountant handle that, and whatever, you know, it all comes out in the wash at the end of the day for me. I don't pay a ton of attention to taxes, but for folks who do pay attention to that sort of stuff, as far as whether or not I'm holding a dividend play, I mean, if I want to be in the shares and I want to be collecting the dividends, I'm going to, you know, hold it. And if I don't want to be in the shares, I'm going to be out. And yeah, you can definitely be methodical with adding to your TSLY positions. That's kind of what I was doing with it when I had a larger position in TSLY. In fact, I've scaled most of mine out and have shifted a lot of that over to another ETF QQQY. And then actually these three right here, I've shifted a lot of stuff into these three: QQQY, JEPY, IWMY. These are all cash secured put. They're all the ETFs are essentially selling 0-day puts as strategically as they possibly can to collect premium. and that premium gets converted into a high yield dividend payment. I think the last one was like on QQQY, for example, I think it was like $3 a share or something like that. Again, one that gets paid monthly, so pretty high yield on those dividend payments. But yeah, so going back to TSLY, sorry if I'm digressing a little bit. Yeah, if you want to kind of collect the dividend and try to make profit off the shares, I certainly would recommend kind of just following the Tesla plan. TSLY should pretty closely track what Tesla's doing. It could be a little bit more muted as far as like if Tesla makes a 5% move to the upside, TSLY might make a smaller move because it is, technically a covered call ETF, which means they're capping some of that upside gain potential when they sell those covered calls. Especially with Tesla, it can be challenging because it can do stuff like this where it just makes this huge move. So sold calls back here and didn't, buy them back down here, which most of these ETFs aren't, I don't think, managing those positions that meticulously. Now your covered calls are probably, underwater, and you're losing out on some, gains in on the Tesla shares, right? As far as the performance of TSLY goes. So, one thing that I do a lot with these high yield dividend ETFs is I really kind of look for opportunities to just try to like buy the dips, especially trying to catch bottoms after a dividend payment's been paid out. That kind of helps bring down your average cost per share. It allows you to build a bigger position, which then grows your dividend payments. So my approach to a lot of these high yield dividend ETF tickers like TSLY and QQQY, etc., has always been to just look for opportunities to build a larger share position by trying to get the lowest possible dollar cost averages as I pick up more shares post dividend payments. But yeah, it does lag a little bit, I would say, as far as the moves can be muted compared to Tesla. But it's certainly, I would say, for the most part, moves in unison with Tesla. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. All right, let's get through the rest of these trade plans, and then I'll try to circle back to some of these other questions. Yeah, TSLL, yeah, that's one that would multiply the benefit of a positive move on Tesla. That's a leveraged ETF where they're essentially buying shares and using options to magnify the capture on moves that Tesla makes. So Lunar, this one was also from the member selected trade plans over the weekend, was holding our put entry all day yesterday. Definitely looking like a bear flag there on the hourly. That bear flag is breaking down, and it looks like we're even getting some back test of the put entry level there at 809. So this one could be good to go for downside if you want to short shares. I'm not sure if it's shortable, but if it is, you could short shares and then or play puts and look for downside for these price targets to hit. It does look like it wants to make a move down, so I'd keep this one on watch. And I'd also say could be some interesting opportunities to potentially buy the dip on this at 663 and 591. I like these confluences where they're setting up with the 200 SMA and the 333 SMA. 333 is a little bit above 591, but that if it makes a move down, that could flatten out and even wind up being right at the exact spot when the price action gets there for a test of 591. So keep that range and watch for potential buy the dip opportunity on Lunar. But yeah, right now it looks like downside's the way to go. IWM we did last Thursday during the live stream. This one has been a no trade so far. It hasn't broken above or below our call or put entry levels. So we're still looking for a breakdown below 219.69 or a break above 225.84. Couple of things I would say about IWM as I'm looking at this. One, it is breaking down below and looks like getting some back testing near and rejections near this trend line that I think was pretty much just for mapping out some trend-based fib extensions, but it does look like it was a pretty decent trend line. It's got touches and they're all pretty clean. It's got at least 3. We've got some testing near it, so it may not be exactly on, but Anyway, looks like a little bit of a breakdown in momentum here on IWM. Um, Gosh, there was something. Oh, and also, sorry, I was like, there's something else I wanted to say about this, and I totally drew a blank for a second there. 223.84. Looking at this, would be a very interesting level to watch if we can reclaim that as support. That could open up an opportunity to play 223.84 up to 225.84. And I would keep my stop right here at 222.71 if I'm playing a break above that. As you can see, that has flipped to resistance through here. So if we get back above 223.84, all that resistance was built up, I would expect to act as strong support. And if it doesn't, well, then there's potential greater downside to be had, at which point I would not want to be heavy on the call side. In fact, I would be scaling out and getting out of the call side there. So QQQ, this one got very close to giving us a confirmed break. I've looked at this on a few different time frames and was looking at it last Thursday when we tried to make the break over the call side. And here's kind of an interesting thing to look at or pay attention to. You know, when we see something like this where we're just barely getting a candle closing above our level, so starting to show signs of a potential confirmation, but we've got this upper wick and it's kind of looking like momentum is dying, and then the next candle essentially double tops right at the same spot. You know, be very careful about jumping into these types of trades, because it's a very weak potential break, and certainly, you know, after sort of a strong upside move, could certainly have been a little bit of chasing until we got a really nice actual break above and probably a back test as support. So just something to kind of be mindful of, that double upper wick look right there. You know, something to just be mindful of. Or if you see it, you know, to the downside, double bottom wick like that, just pay close attention to the price action. Maybe be a little bit more patient before taking an entry, instead of maybe being as aggressive with your entries as you would normally be. All right, last but not least, MDB. This one also has not given us a confirmed break to either side. It is breaking down below the 200 SMA here on the hourly chart. Kind of got a bearish lean and look to it across the board. Certainly looks bearish as long as it's below 282.81 over that. There's potential for it to try to possibly recover some more. It is getting down into these SMAs, though, in this range in here. You could kind of think about, you know, a broad area of upward momentum. Let's take a look at a smaller time frame as well. But yeah, looks pretty iffy. I would say still kind of has an overall bearish look to it based on kind of how these indicators are setting up. So anyway, with that being said, let's get to some new trade plans. Well, hi JTW, thinking investing in TLT for the dividend. You know, TLT is a bond ticker, and I'm not a big bond person. So I don't have a lot of insights for you on that, to be perfectly honest. I'm really much more of an equities and derivatives trader than I am a bond person. I mean, I know I've got some stuff that holds bonds in my 401k, because, you know, you generally want that kind of 80-20 exposure depending on sort of where the market's heading and what the risk factors are. But yeah, bonds aren't something that I like ever delve deeply into, I guess is probably the right way to say it. So I don't have a ton of insights on that, unfortunately, but gotta be honest, I'm not going to give you a BS answer just to make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. All right, what tickers do you guys have that you want me to take a look at? Let's get some new trade plans underway here as we head into the last 20-ish minutes of our live stream this morning. Is that Next Era Energy or something like that? God, it's sad that I know some of these things. I've been around too long if somebody can just drop a ticker that you never hardly ever look at and you're like, oh, I know what that is. All right. So let's take a look at Next Era. clearly not one that I've really ever studied before, so I don't even know why I know that, why I knew this symbol, but I knew it. All right, let's take a look at next era. And of course, where we always start, support and resistance first and foremost. It's like building the foundation of your house. Depending on how good your foundation is, depends on how resilient your house is going to be. All right, so let's nail down some of these levels. Yeah, it's right about there. And if you guys want, I can kind of talk through. In fact, I will do that. I'll start talking through kind of what I'm looking at or what has me drawn to these um, levels as I'm drawing them, because I think that would probably be helpful. A little bit of support and resistance training, if you will. So like something like this, right, looks interesting. I got a lot of clean touches of resistance, but not really. This is maybe a potential support touch, but it's iffy at best. I think there's something there, but it's not quite a weekly level. So I'm going to just flag that for now. This definitely looks good though. Again, nice clean resistance touches, clean support touch there. This looks pretty interesting. Not sure if it's a weekly level, so we'll just flag it. But again, looking at some rejections there, big rejection there that led to a bigger downside move, and then not really clean support, but clearly support building up. Those candles getting bought up, closing near or right around that level, and another interesting rejection there. Yeah, not quite. We'll wait till we get to a smaller time frame to try to nail that down. Anything else that really sticks out here? This is kind of an interesting level, and I think it could be a good weekly level. Big rejection there, a little bit of a support touch there, clearly a bunch of rejections and resistance through there. What else? There's some other stuff that I saw. Nice break above, back test, pushed higher there. So this is the kind of stuff that I look for when I start to, you know, read the charts, if you will. All right, let's take a look at this 24-hour chart. Let's see if we can nail down what exactly these placeholder levels are. Nice clean rejections still, but I think this one we were really struggling to find any good clean support tests. I'm still not really seeing any, to be honest. Well, there's some decent little tests. I'm a little bit torn on this one. I'd like to see some better support, but I think there's enough there. Call that a daily level. And can we nail down this guy? I think there is a level up here. It's just a little bit higher. Yep. Making this small adjustment gives us some nice clean resistance touches, some good support touches in there. So anyway, that's generally the kind of stuff that I look for. Hopefully that gives you guys some idea of kind of why I'm drawing levels where I'm drawing them. Figured that might be helpful. Yeah, definitely something right around here. Big rejection there. Break above, back test. Didn't get a big move after that, but some good support touches. All right, let's get back closer to the current price action. I think there's probably something there. And yeah, I think we got something there that we could go ahead and mark. All right, let's see if there's anything else that sticks out to me on this daily chart. Yeah, it's a little too iffy. All right, let's move on to the 4 hour. And then try to accelerate this. Clearly, I think we're going to be looking for a break over this top that we're button up against here, just already sticking out like a sore thumb. But let's see what kind of room that opens to the upside based on our most recent push above that. See, that's kind of was my concern. That weekly level just overhead. Right here at 86.79. Almost makes me think, yeah, we've got a pretty obvious key level here that we could use as a stop loss average down. But my concern, right, just eyeballing this, is if we use this just based on, we see good bounces, good rejections. So over this 85.43, I would expect this to hold as support as we make our way up kind of the ladder. But the thing I don't like about this is there's a really good chance that we top out here at 86.79, which puts us upside down in our risk reward, right? If we look at it this way. So I'm kind of getting into a little bit of a impromptu mentoring session here, so maybe going a little bit slower with this trade plan, but hopefully it's valuable information nonetheless. So if I look at this, right, if I use this as my stop loss, this is my entry, and that's my first price target, because there's clearly a pretty good chance of a rejection there. Also, it's a weekly level, which is kind of one of the stronger levels that we've put on the chart. It's upside down, right? Risk to reward ratio is 0.85, and I could tell just by eyeballing that my risk zone is bigger than my reward zone. But if we make a slight adjustment to this, by the looks of it, I think over 86.79, we've then got a pretty clear shot up to 88.57, which means we've got this key level here that could have been a call entry. I think now could be our stop loss average down. If we set this plan up, this long position up this way, just looking at PT1 here, all of a sudden, now we're at a 1.4 risk to reward ratio. So that looks much more appealing. So I think we're going to make that adjustment to the entry level. It's going to be a little bit more patient, but I think, again, it will be worth the wait. Sets us up for a better risk reward, getting to that first price target. So that's going to be an adjustment we'll make. Again, has us waiting a little bit longer, but I'd rather wait and have better confirmation, better risk reward, than getting into something that's essentially an upside down risk reward entry. So quick explanation on support and resistance and some things that I look at as far as when I'm setting up my trade plans. And one thing to be very cautious about or conscientious of, don't That's the right way to say it. So make sure that you're basing your levels and how you're looking at these things on price action. And the charts don't just pick a arbitrary stop loss or arbitrary price targets or ignore key supports and resistances just to make sure the risk reward is favorable, right? So anyway, finishing up this upside trade plan, I think boom, 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 1, 2, 3 price targets over that 86.79. So let's take a look at where downside gets interesting. And I was already kind of eyeballing this daily level right here, and there could potentially, nah, I don't want to be, yeah, I'd say, well, let's wait for that 83.65 to break, but clearly I think below that opens up an opportunity down to 81.59. So now we can use this resistance, right, as our stop loss average down opportunity. This gives us just better than, it looks like, slightly better than or right at a 1-to-1 risk reward. Let's take a look. Slightly better than. That's the bare minimum, right? If your risk reward's upside down, adjust your plan. And generally, I like to gauge that based on how my risk reward sets up just getting to PT1. Sometimes PT1 is all you get. Like this base that's built up, and I think there is room down below 81.59 to take us to 79.89, and then could be a potential earlier bounce, but we'll be moving our stops up. I'm willing to give it a little bit of a stretch for some additional downside profits down to 78.42. Let's throw our indicators on, see if anything changes our minds. If anything, we get a little bit of confirmation here on the 4-hour with that key level there at 81.59 and the strong buying pressure there on Neptune. So that would definitely be a great spot to scale out and make sure you move your stops up. Based on that 4-hour chart, 333 SMAs there on the 1 hour, so multiple confluences, multiple time frames around that 81.59 level. So yeah, if anything, I see validation and confirmation that we've got, from an indicator perspective, that we've got our levels in the right spots. So anyway, a quick little impromptu. I know we didn't get to get deep into everything, didn't get to go through all the time frames, just based on obviously time being of the essence, but hopefully that was helpful and get you all kind of looking and thinking about these charts the way I do, or the way that a seasoned trader does. I don't want to necessarily say you should look at it exactly the way I do. All right, so let's talk through these trade plans. Here is your NEE, Next Era Energy live stream plans. And over here in the chat and in the options watch list. All right, so what are we looking for here on Next Era Energy? We are looking for a break over 86.79. Again, we're going to want to be a little bit more patient. That sets us up for a better risk reward setup, moving to the upside for continuation. So over 86.79, we're looking at targets at 88.57, 89.78, and 91.16, with a stop loss average down at 85.43. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 83.65. Let me make a small adjustment to that. Below 83.65, we're looking for targets at 81.59, 79, 89, and 78.42, with a stop loss average down, shared with the upside trade plan at 85.43. Those are your Next Era Energy trade plans. All right, let's keep it rolling. Saru over in the Discord asked for PDD, Pinduoduo. Right? PDD Holdings. I thought, oh wait, no, never mind. That's Pins, isn't it? No, Pins is Pinterest. I thought PDD was Pinduoduo. Am I crazy? What is PDD Holdings? Retail trade. PDD. Is this the right ticker that you're looking for, Saru? I don't know why I thought this was. What is PDD? Why did I think that was Pinduoduo? Or did they change their name to PDD Holdings? I guess that's possible. Oh, okay. All right, cool. Well, we'll take a look at it. Clearly, this is one I've looked at before. Yeah, I wonder, did they just change their name or something like that? I swear PDD was Pinduoduo at one point, but maybe they changed it to PDD Holdings. Anyway, I digress. Got some old levels, old drawings on this. Clearly not one I've looked at in quite a while. Let's clean up some of this chart mess. See if any of these levels are still worthy of keeping on our chart. Got some old trend lines that I'm sure are way out of the picture at this point. Yeah, clearly at some point. Ah, there was a name change. Okay, I'm not crazy. Yeah, and I didn't real. I always thought they were a Chinese company. I know they were founded by a Chinese guy, but apparently they're headquartered in Ireland. So yeah, I was wrong about that, or maybe it just gets traded heavily on the Asian markets or something like that. So this is going to be one where lots of gaps up and down. Uh, on this one, they got slaughtered on earnings. It's not that bad of a report, but or at least as far as the raw numbers look, but they could have had some very negative things that they said in their post earnings report conference call or something like that. All right, well, let's take a look at. I mean, it's clearly in this big fair value gap from that earnings drop. Let's take a look at this, get our bearings a little bit. Like I said, it's been a while since I've looked at PDD. All right, so looking for a lot of the same stuff we talked about on the last one, but I'm not gonna talk through as much just in the interest of time so I can try to get through this and have everything be as solid as possible. I think this level's a little off where I did have it. Yeah, I think there's something around here. Let's see how that's got us shaping up. There is a gap below, but again, I'd be a little bit cautious about looking at these gap levels a little too closely just because, again, this one trades heavily outside of extended US hours, if my memory serves correct. There is a level right here. Let me kind of wondering if we can the one I was looking at. Yeah, It's right about here. So I think what I'm looking at, let's see if this stacks up the way I think it will. Pretty close. Let's take a look at this on the hourly. Yeah, I think we've got an opportunity over 108.92 for it to make a pretty decent move up to 116.04. And this 121.38 level is kind of sticking out at me, and I think for sure that would be my second price target. Third target, probably just below that daily level, up above at 128.27, so kind of looking more like 126.28. So then the question becomes, where should our stop loss be? It's a little too much room. I don't think, yeah. Let me take a look at, see if this is a valid level or just part of one of these extended hours gaps that, again, these tickers tend to have because they trade so heavily outside of the extended US hours. Yeah, I think there is a level right here that I think does look like a pretty reasonable, smart. We could even maybe have it slightly lower, like right here. I think that makes for a good stop loss right there. Downside, yeah, it's going to be below this 101.91 level. Just trying to see if I can get some more visibility or confirmation on it. Yeah, I like that. Going to be a tight first price target. That's okay, because we're going to have a tight stop. Down to this weekly level there at 98.38. Gives us right at 1-to-1, maybe a little bit better than 1-to-1. On the risk reward, getting down to PT1. Below that, be looking at this 94.80 level, and then lots of bottom action here. I think we'd be crazy to shoot for anything lower than 90.33 based on how strong that base looks right there. So here we go with our PDD trade plans. Expand this out a little bit so it's easier to see. All right. So here are your PDD live stream plans. So what are we looking for here on PDD holdings? We're looking for a break over 108.92. That should give us a big move up to 116.04. and then potential continuation up to 121.38 and 126.28 with a stop loss average down at 10, what is that? 104.93. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 101.91. That should give us targets at 98.38, 94.80, and 90.33 with a shared stop loss average down with the upside trade plan at 104.93. Those are your PDD upside and downside trade plans. I will, for Smash, I think it was, take a quick look at Rolls-Royce. There's multiple Rolls-Royce. Is it this one? It's an OTC ticker, so keep that in mind. Which means it's probably, that's better than I thought as far as the volume goes. Clearly that 72 cents was a gift when it hit that level. I mean, it looks, I don't see a whole lot that would, well, you've got this prior support right here. I think there is an actual level right around this spot. Probably right there, like 738. Which it's getting ready to run up against. Yeah. So I think it needs to clear over 738 before it continues. Over that, take a look at this on some smaller time frames real quick. Try to give you some idea. It's not going to be a fully fleshed out trade plan because we do have to wrap things up so I can get to the daily SPY plan and get that posted for everybody. Yeah, this one's going to make very wonky moves. But I think it's got room. I mean, the next major level would be 836, I think. Again, this is a little bit of a tougher one to analyze because if you can, it's not already obvious. If you look at the price action, it's a little bit hard to read when it's all over the place like that. And I have to believe that this 689 probably the key level to hold to remain bullish on it. Let's see. I have to go. What did I say? 689. Let's get in here. Maybe more like 695 actually. So I mean, if you want an idea of, I would imagine with it being an OTC ticker, there's no such thing as a shortable. I don't think shares would be available to short. So yeah, I mean, if you want an idea for like a quick shares trade on an OTC stock, I'd say over 738 for Rolls-Royce opens up a pretty, decent move up to 836. I mean, that's a dollar move on a $7 ticker. That's a pretty decent percent return. And if I was in on a break of 738 resistance, I would definitely want 695 to behave as support, or I would not want to be holding those shares anymore because then it looks like you could wind up holding a bag for a while and more downside potential. So hopefully that gives you some, pretty close. I mean, around 5 cents off. I mean, we're essentially talking about the same level. So yeah, I don't know. It's not a heavily traded ticker, Chris. I don't really know why it's not in the, I mean, it's, it's got decent volume. It's got, um, I wonder if it's 149 days for their next earnings report. I wonder if it's because I think to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange, you have to report earnings quarterly, and it looks like maybe they don't want to be held to that standard if their next earnings report isn't till 150 days out. I mean, their share price certainly qualifies, and volume's good enough that I would think it would qualify for the New York Stock Exchange. But that next ER being that far out is a bit strange looking to me. They might only report annually potentially. Um, yeah, right, exactly. So anyway, hopefully that gives you guys some insights on Rolls Royce. And with that, I do need to wrap up this morning's live stream. I want to thank you everybody for joining me this morning. I do appreciate it. We will be back Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with that, as we always say here on the Xtrades FOMO live streams, plan your trades and trade your plans. Go out there, secure the bag, keep your wins big, keep your losses small. I will see you guys in the chats. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope you guys will come back Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Xtrades Discord and on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. Have a fantastic day. See you guys on Thursday. Take care.